Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're out on the range with the 280 Ackley. This is my Browning X-Bolt Hell's Canyon Speed, again chambered in 280 Ackley improved. This is a rifle from before Browning was threading 5/8 24 on all their muzzles, so I do have a thread adapter on here. It's been verified, everything's straight. The suppressor lines up with it just fine. I have double checked that. Out in front here of this kind of long package, we've got a Silencer Co. Scythe TI. I picked this suppressor up specifically for hunting with this rifle because of its extremely lightweight. On the top of the rifle is a Vortex Viper HD 3-15 by 44. This will be my first time shooting with this scope and the first time out on the range with it, with the 280 Ackley since mounting it. I haven't really done anything with this rifle for a couple of years, but this year I've got a mule deer tag in Idaho, and the 280 Ackley is going to be the tool for the job. The last time I developed any loads for this was before going bear hunting in Idaho, and that's been, I think, 3 years ago now. But I've been watching Alabama Reloader's channel, and he's been shooting with his 280 Ackley and getting really good results with it, and it's got me excited to do some more load workup with this again. Let's get into the reloading bench and we'll talk about what we're shooting today. All right, folks, let's talk about this load for today. I am using Nosler brass. This has been twice fired already. This is the same batch of brass that I've been working with since I got the rifle. I do have some Peterson brass that we will be shooting in the future, but for now, this Nosler brass works great. It's already got a few firings on it, so we're gonna keep using this. The bullet for today, which is probably the most important part of everything, is the 175 grain Sierra Match King. This is an older box that I have here. I got this in a trade for some other 7mm bullets, I think, but it's a full box, or I think it's a full box. This is part number 1975, and it says on the box 8.5 inch twist or faster. The Browning X-Bolt that I have has an 8.5 inch twist. Whether that's really ideal, I don't know. This may do better with like an 8 twist, but we're gonna see how it does out of this X-Bolt. I don't really have a purpose for this load other than to try shooting out to long range with it and to get back used to this rifle after not having really shot it for a couple of years. So we're not really looking to do anything in particular with this load, just see how it shoots. Kind of for the fun of it. I've just got this one box of bullets. I may get more in the future if this shoots really well, who knows. For primers, I'll be shooting the same primer I've been using in this gun, and that's the Federal Gold Medal Large Rifle Match Primer, GM210M. I've got, after this box, I think 500 left, and we'll just keep using those in the Ackley till we run out, I think. Except maybe when we go to fire forming loads. Powders for today was the biggest thing that I spent a whole bunch of time in Gordon's reloading tool trying to figure out. You'll see I've got IMR 4831 set out on the table. That's what we're starting with. I may end up with a different powder. I have a list that I made up from running GRT simulations of about 7 different powders that I could use. Shooter's World 4350, N555, IMR 7828 Shortcut, H4831, Superformance, N560, which I don't have, and yeah, I think that's it. The Superformance, I'm not going to try. It's a ball powder. I'm really not interested in that one. The N555 would probably work really well, but I've only got 2 pounds with it, and I'm saving it for the hunting loads. N560, like I said, I don't have any of that. That would probably be the ideal powder for this load, but I don't have that. Shooter's World 4350 does get 100% burn. It's probably a little too fast for this load. Around like a 91% case fill and hitting 2767 for a velocity, according to the charts. That's probably pretty good, and I do have a ton of that powder, and we may end up trying it. The 2 powders I will most likely start with. IMR 7828 Shortcut, or Super Shortcut. I've got 1 pound of this. It's a little too slow. I just hit 99% burn at max according to GRT. So it doesn't quite get all the way burned, but it is showing us a predicted velocity of over 2,900 feet per second with this 175 grain bullet, and that's well into 7 PRC or 7 Rem Mag territory. So it could give some pretty super velocities, but I'm gonna try to save this if I can. IMR 4831. Let's talk about this powder because it's what we're gonna start out with. According to GRT, it should be close to ideal, getting a muzzle velocity near max charge of somewhere around 2850, which is really, really high. The trouble with this is, and let's jump into GRT and I'll show you here. So here's the model I have pulled up for IMR 4831. Before we even start looking at this, let me show you where my concern is, and that is right here. According to GRT, this powder does not have very good calibration for this load. Like they just kind of started working on it and it's just out of development model, but it's not quite as developed as models for a lot of the other IMR powders. So that's a little bit of my concern with this. Also, let me put a picture up on the screen of the Sierra data. It's showing a max charge of 53.3 grains, and that is showing to be around 46,000 PSI. Now, there is a difference between the seating depths. Sierra listed cartridge overall length is 3.410, and the length I'm seating these bullets to is 3.468. So we are about 58 thousandths longer on our seating depth, but just for fun, let's plug in the Sierra number. Yeah, that only gets us up to 47,000 PSI. So something's not quite matching up, and it's why I want to be really cautious with this load. Sierra is showing that charge should be going 2750. Let me check the barrel length just to make sure. Oh no, they're using a 26-inch barrel. So knock off 25 feet per second per inch, and we'll say 2700 is what Sierra is quoting roundabout, and Gordon's reloading tool says 2590. So a whole 100 feet per second slower is what Gordon's is saying. A quick check of the Hodgdon website shows a Spear soft point at 2700 out of a 24-inch barrel with 55 grains of IMR 4831, but they're only showing that at 61,400 PSI. So why that's not higher, I don't know. Anyway, 55 grains is kind of the area that I want to start in for safety reasons. So what I'm gonna do, because the powder model is not super dialed in on GRT, or at least it may not be, I want to shoot 9 shots, starting all the way down at 55 grains and move up in half grain increments to my planned testing max of 59 grains. Now, huge red flags here. This is like 5.7 whole grains of powder higher than the Sierra manual says. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. I have the data plugged into Gordon's reloading tool that are extremely specific for my rifle, my chamber, my brass, everything. Absolutely do not use this load without starting way low and working up for yourself. It is very possible that I don't shoot all 9 of these shots. I'm going to be paying really, really close attention. I have the GRT predicted velocities written down here. If we're getting higher than what GRT predicts, I'm gonna stop way, way short. So I'm gonna be paying attention to those velocities as well as what I see on the brass to try to gauge what the pressure is like for this load. Again, don't do this at home without being extremely careful and working things up for yourself. So again, starting all the way down at 55 grains, which is still above what Sierra lists as their max, and working up to 59 grains in half grain increments. We'll compare that to GRT. If it's way off of what GRT says, I'll come back in and try and do a little bit of research and figure out how to tweak that model to get it to match my 4831. And we'll go from there, or we'll just try a different powder. We'll see. For now, let's get out to the range and shoot these 9 shots. I have a brand new scope on this rifle and have never fired it since mounting the scope, so I'm excited to get this sighted in and test it out. This is the new about a year ago Vortex Viper HD 3-15 by 44. This has got the center illuminated dot. To me, this is probably the ideal, not super lightweight pairing for this gun. And I'll also be throwing the Silencer Co. Scythe TI suppressor on here, which I specifically bought for hunting with this rifle. So excited to test that all out. Let's get it out to the range and see what happens. All right, I've got a target down there at 100 yards. I'm gonna do a quick bore sight. Actually, we're gonna be pretty darn close already. And we're gonna try a shot right there. I do have the Garmin Zero chronograph set up, and again, this is a kind of a delicate test. If I don't have any issues with this first shot at 55 grains, then I'm not going to be too or as on edge because this is above Book Max from Sierra. Just gonna double check here. All right, we should be good to go. If Gordon's is correct, this shot should be about 2650. So I'm gonna get lined up here. All right, we're on paper and I can adjust from there. Okay, that shot was 2713. So that is faster than I expected, or than Gordon's expected, by about 60 feet per second. Let's see what the brass looks like. No hard bolt lift. And the brass looks great. So while we may not shoot all the way up to the top charge I have here, we are gonna keep going. This is 55.5 grains. All right, that's a pretty close 0. It's always crazy to me with this light barrel how much I can feel it whipping after the shot goes off. It also always hits me, or rather doesn't hit me, that while this is putting out a ton of energy, with the suppressor on this, the really nicely designed stock, and the really, really good recoil pad that this Browning has, this rifle doesn't feel like it recoils much at all. In fact, it is extremely pleasant to shoot. Brass is still fine at 2735. $27.81. Gordon's predicted 2702. Well, I suppose 55 grains. The velocity of 2713 is about the velocity Sierra would have predicted. Remember, they had a 26-inch barrel, we have a 24, so I'll take off 50 feet per second from their 2750 estimate, but that was at 53.3 grains, and we were at 55 grains. So theirs is off too, by significantly more than Gordon's. We are about 80 feet per second difference right now on our charge. Let's go 56.5 grains. I do have all of my charges clearly marked on the cases, just to be really certain that I'm getting the right charge. You know what, I'm gonna go ahead and try now while I don't care. I'm gonna try moving this rest back a notch. I may have to drill some more holes in the bench, but for right now I'm just going with these stops on a board separation, and that seemed to work pretty well for me. You know what, we're gonna try this for a little bit. I can seem to get on the gun better. The back end of my rest is hanging off the edge here by like an inch, but there's still plenty of rest on the bench, and this is a good big solid rear rest. That one was also pretty close to 2870. 2871 predicted 2727. With this charge weight at 57 grains, we should be getting a complete burn. Before that, it was like 96 to 99%. This should be the first charge weight with 100% burn, according to Gordon's anyway. 2846. Big jump up on velocity there. Oh, never mind, that was a... Hang on. Things changed by 90 feet per second, not down by 10 feet per second on one of those shots, I think. I gotta review this. Yeah, we went from 2781 to 2871. So my dyslexic brain was misreading that. So we jumped up 90 feet per second. Gordon's was showing max pressure just over 2851. Let's look at this brass. The brass is still perfectly fine. I am gonna shoot one more shot, and I don't think we're probably gonna go higher than that. This is 57.5 grains. Yeah, that shot jumped up to 2932. I'm cutting it off. This is looking dangerous. And on that shot, we got the tiniest bit of ejector impression. Yeah, stopping there, not going any further. Each of these half grain charges is jumping up. Well, let's see, it got a little erratic there at 57 grains. We dropped down to 2846 from the 2871 before it. And then this charge jumped up almost another 100 feet per second. Yeah, we're not gonna be in this territory. I don't like it. Even though like we're not getting anything that looks crazy on the brass, I don't like it. What I do like is what it looks like our groups are gonna do down there. I'll show you the target in a second. Also, we are well into 7 PRC territory. 2932 on that shot with a 175 grain bullet. And the recoil is not bad at all with this rifle. All right, let's, oh, our barrel. I didn't even think about barrel heat. The barrel is pretty darn hot. I probably should have shot that just a little bit slower. Since we weren't shooting groups, I didn't think about it, but yeah. All right, let's get into the bench and we'll talk about what we're gonna do next. All right, here's our target. That was the first shot I took. I adjusted the scope to compensate, and here we are. The other shots we took, it looks like, I can't tell if there's 5 shots here or 6. I don't remember how many I took overall. But they are into less than an inch. And keep in mind, we've got over 200 feet per second difference between the slowest shot and the fastest shot there. So this is looking like we may get a forgiving load out of this bullet. I'm getting really excited to see where this goes. All right, so I did not feel the need to record anything back at the reloading bench. We're shooting the exact same test, this time just with Shooter's World 4350 powder. Again, I'm starting way low because I'm not exactly sure how close the predicted data is gonna be to the actual data. Gordon's reloading tool had what looked like a little bit more dialed in model for this powder, although there's a few inconsistencies that I'm not sure I want to talk about yet. So I want to start way low and work up. We're going to start at 53 grains with a predicted velocity of 2620 and work up to 36.5 with a predicted velocity of 2767. That was predicted at 75 degrees. It's about 85 degrees, so that may be a little bit different, but the ammunition has been inside at 75 degrees. That's what I have the temperature in the shop there set to, so we should be pretty close there. I do have a target camera up that you should see here. Let's start at 53 grains. A little lighter push on that for sure, 2542. Okay, we're a little slower than Gordon's is saying. Brass is perfect. 43 and a half. And it's crazy how much that barrel whips. 26.17. 26.35. This is moving up pretty slow. After that third shot, I am going to let the barrel cool because it's quite hot already. Nothing at all on the brass. All right, we'll shoot 54 and a half. 26.77. Now we're getting really close to predicted velocity. Predicted for this is 26.84. 55 grains. 27.13. Predicted at 27.05, so that's real close. 55 and a half. 26.81. That was quite the drop. And I'm reading it correctly this time. We're still within about 40 feet per second, 45 feet per second of predicted. 56 grains. 27.18. Back up to about where we were 2 charges ago. And we'll go ahead and shoot the last one at 56 and a half. Gun's pretty hot, but it can handle it. 27.90. All right. Nothing on the brass whatsoever. It looks great. I think what I want to do is load this same test up with one more powder, just so that we have some good stuff to choose from. It's been sitting on the ground, so I popped the bolt out, looked through the board just to make sure no bugs or bees or anything had gotten in there. All right, same test one more time. This is with IMR 7828 Super Shortcut. This powder is a little slow. We're gonna get like 98, I think, maybe 99% burn with the highest charge. 6 charge weights down in half grain increments, we're only getting just over 95% burn. So that's all the further I went down with six charges. So 59.5 grains to 62 grains. Predicting starting out here at 27.85 and ending up at 29.13. So this should be a pretty fast load. Fast shooting anyway, with the slow powder. I'm going to continue a center hold here. See if we can put these shots through the same hole as most of the rest of them. Okay, that first shot was 29.18 at 59.5 grains. So we are already over the predicted top charge with the bottom charge. And there is an ejector circle on the brass. Against my better judgment, I'm gonna shoot one more shot at 60 grains and see what happens, but we're already too hot. I kind of want to see how predictable it is. $29.03 and a little bit of an ejector circle. Let's do one more. 29.67. Circle and a tiny bit of a smear. We're stopping. I'm not going any further than that, and we're not going to use this anyway. Because of that high pressure on the first charge. That's a fast load though. We're getting close to 3,000 feet per second. We are in 7 PRC territory, solidly in 7 PRC territory. Recoil, I mean, you can see it's pushing me back a little bit, but it's soft. I mean, it's not uncomfortable whatsoever. All right, folks, time for the good stuff, the group shooting, or what I hope is the good stuff. And by the way the initial target looks down there, I'll put it up on the screen. I think we're gonna shoot some tight groups here. We'll see. What I decided to do, I wanna shoot groups from all 3 of the powders we just tested. The IMR 7828 or 72, what even is it? 7828 Super Shortcut. The charge we started with was too hot. I put the velocity result from that shot into GRT, and it said, yep, that should be about max pressure and 100% burn. So what I did is load a half grain below that, and we'll shoot a 3-shot group with that. We are gonna shoot 3-shot groups right now. We'll pick the best 1, 2, or maybe even 3 groups, and we'll shoot 5 or 10-shot groups with that. I haven't quite decided yet. But I picked 1 charge of each of the other 2 powders that looks like it's in a pretty good range, with the swing around it not too unpredictable. We'll shoot that charge and 3/10 below and 3/10 above that charge. So it'll be 3 3-shot groups with each of the other 2 powders. We're gonna start with that IMR 7828 because we've just got the 1 3-shot group of it. I'm gonna come up 2 minutes, and we're just gonna shoot it on that same target. The chronograph's set up, and we should be able to get some starting averages and such here. So this is 59 grains of 7828. We started at 59.5 earlier. So I'm just gonna use a center hold on this target. Must be in the black. 28.54 for that first shot. And good, there's no ejector circle on the brass this time. I am gonna single feed all these groups. Hopefully you're able to see the impacts better than I am. 29.02. Ah, okay. There we go. Okay, and we got a little bit of an ejector swipe on that one. And the bolt lift was a little bit difficult. Okay, I can't tell for sure, but that looks kind of a terrible group, and an extreme spread of almost 50 feet per second, standard deviation at 20. So, kind of figured that might happen, but that's okay. I wanted to try it out anyway, and that brass doesn't show anything. That was 28.85 for that velocity. Let me go switch out that target, and then we'll get to the groups I do have good hope for. All right, that group was not actually as bad as I thought. I thought this 9 over here was a shot. Got 2 in this hole right here and then 1 above. No, actually not bad. Looks like a little over an inch, 1.1 or so. This barrel does heat up very quickly. After those 3 shots, it's already hot. We're gonna make sure we've got at least 5 minutes between each 3-shot group, and probably a minute between shots. Up first, we've got 55.2 grains of IMR 4831. Oh, better come back down. I can't exactly tell, but that looks like a heck of a good start. I'm gonna come down another 3 clicks for the next group. We got an average of 27.49, extreme spread of 15.3, standard deviation of 6. Good stuff. Excellent stuff. I'll set a 5-minute timer in between groups. We may have to go 7 if it's not quite cooled off enough. Yeah, that's a great way to start. About 7 minutes later, the barrel is it's still warm-ish, but it's cool enough to shoot a group. This is 55.5 grains. I think I might have torqued that a little bit. Not exactly sure. All right, not terrible. Average of 27.74, extreme spread of 22, standard deviation of 9.7. All right, it's been about 10 minutes this time. 7 barrel wasn't quite cool enough. Now it feels like it's down to about what it was when I shot that second group. We're at 55.8 grains. Man, every time I look at this cartridge, it just looks like an absolute spaceship. It's shooting real good too. I'm enjoying this. All right, 55.8 grains. Another nice tight little group. Average of 28.14, extreme spread of 8.2, standard deviation of 3.4. Holy cow. That is some good stuff. Really good stuff. And yeah, looks like a great group. Tell you what, this 16 power scope, Vortex Viper, the glass, at least at 100 yards here, is really clear. Some scopes in this power, I have a little bit more trouble seeing the bullet holes, especially when it's shaded down there like it is right now. Right now, I mean, I can see all of those bullet holes just fine, except for maybe one shot on the first group that's right in that black ring, which is what I always have trouble with. But I'm really liking this scope so far, shooting with it today. Give 10 more minutes and we'll start into the 4350 loads. I am so sorry that the target camera died before I shot that group. That is a fantastic little group. I know it's only 3 shots, but they're touching, and yeah, good stuff. Let's keep on shooting. We're gonna move over to Shooter's World 4350. This is 55.7 grains of Shooter's World 4350. 2674. There's a little splinter on this table that's right where my elbow rests, and it's chewing it up. That one pulled just a little bit. That group weirdly had an extreme spread of 53.5 feet per second. Not sure why. 56 grains. That one torqued weird. I think I had too much face pressure on it. Especially seeing where that shot went. Let me try to not do that on this shot. My shooting is falling apart. I feel my follow through just wasn't great on that. I'm gonna take 10 minutes, think about what I need to do different for this last group, and then we'll shoot it. For velocity, average of 2709, extreme spread of 23, standard deviation of 10. Last group, I did some dry firing. Let's take a look at the target. Everything with IMR 4831 was real good. Starting out with a 0.4 here, 0.61, and a 0.375 was that little tiny group that unfortunately the target camera died for. I am thinking about getting a different target camera, something with a battery that lasts a little bit longer. I've had this one for a couple of years and technology has moved on. Sorry about that, but there it is anyway. The groups with Shooter's World 4350, as I said, I didn't feel like I was shooting these two groups very well. I hate to make that excuse. At least one or two, at least on this group, I knew that things weren't feeling quite right on my follow through. I did some dry fire, worked on my position, and the next group was a 0.53. Could these have been tighter? I don't know, maybe. If I had been shooting a little better, maybe I could have tightened them up. But either way, we got pretty good results with the IMR 4831. This top group, average velocity was 28.14 with a pretty small standard extreme spread and standard deviation. Of course, the standard deviation doesn't really matter on 3-shot groups here. It really doesn't tell us a whole lot. But yeah, there's that. I did go ahead and measure that first group with 78.28, and it was just over an inch. 1.04 is what I measured for those 3 shots. So some really good looking groups here. Let's take a look at the brass real quick. The only thing, of course, I didn't shoot all of the 78.28 shots, so I have 3 more to pull here. Here, I believe, is the charge that made me definitely stop. You can see that shiny spot right there. And I don't know if you can tell if it has an ejector circle, but it does. Yeah, there you can kind of see the edge of the circle. It's not It's not anything super crazy, but definitely something I don't want to go past, especially with the super high velocity we were getting. I stopped on the 4831 loads as well. There's the ejector circle on that. Not really much of anything, but again, the velocity was pretty darn high, up over 2,900 feet per second. And then the Shooter's World 4350, we were able to shoot all these without pressure. This one jumped up quite a bit, so I knocked off that top charge and we centered on the 56 grains. And as you can see, even with the little bit of a jump from 56 to 56.3, we went up, we had a pretty good little jump there, 31 feet per second. So not terrible, but you can definitely see that it's jumping up quite a bit between this group and this group. So anyway, I think what we're gonna go with is the IMR 4831. This pound is about out, but I've got one more pound. And I think what we're gonna do, I have 9 pieces of brass here that have not been primed or fired. These are prepped and ready to go. I also have these 3 cases that I'm gonna pull down. So we're gonna load 12 shots. We'll shoot these, make sure to shoot these 3 first and then the other 9 so that we can keep them straight just in case these do something weird. But we're gonna shoot a 12-shot group with this 55.8 grain charge of 4831. That 12-shot group will be in the next video. It ought to be a pretty short one, and that video will drop probably in the next couple of days here. I'm not gonna wait a whole week to drop that video because it will be a short one. But this video is getting kind of long already. So we're gonna end this here and we'll shoot that one in the next video. I am really glad to be shooting this Browning X-Bolt again. This is a really nice rifle. It's shooting really well, and it makes me even more excited to work up more hunting type loads later on. This particular Sierra Match King is on sale at Midway right now, so I'm probably gonna grab another box of it to have on hand. And hopefully we can shoot this rifle at long range in the future. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.